So we have, it's complete body. So
lightweight.
Yeah, so we have 200 kilos less.
Right.
And the whole car is only.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Yep. Whenever you're ready, sir. Beautifully acted.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
We have a second package to show you.
Oh.
Shoreham, glaube ich, hat er gesagt. Der Flugplatz.
We'll put you in one of these.
Etzel, E-T-C-E-L-L.
And what's your title?
I'm the event director of the Future Car Challenge for tomorrow, and
This is the second year, isn't it?
Yep.
Tell us first of all, what's the history of it? How did it come about?
Well, each year we've been having the London to Brighton Veteran Car Run, the very traditional event that goes back to 1896, the world's longest running motoring event, and that was about pioneering of motor car back in the late 19th century when we had electric cars, steam cars and petrol cars in that period, and you bought petrol in bottles in the chemist. So they hadn't decided what was the mass energy production for the future. Now in the 21st century, we're back to the same scenario of looking at electric, hybrid, hydrogen. What is the mass production energy for the future? So we thought it was a great opportunity to have a reverse run from Brighton to London with future cars to see and promote what is coming in the future.
Last year you had, I'm not sure how many cars do you have last year?
We had 64 cars on the run this year.
70 this year?
70 entered for this year.
So it's a growing event as well, isn't it?
It is growing. More manufacturers are involved in new energy cars. Everyone is trialling and testing with electric, hydrogen and hybrid. So we can see a huge growth of cars coming from all different manufacturers throughout. When they arrive in London tomorrow after the run from Brighton, we have the Regent Street Motor Show, and they can actually display their car for the rest of the day to up to 250,000 people in Regent Street tomorrow.
Is there a different way of driving? You know, obviously London has its own characteristics of driving, the stop-start. But how do you? Is it different to drive a hybrid car to a normal car?
Not really, other than your style of driving can help improve the economy even further and the least energy that you use. And this event is all about using the least energy possible on the 60-mile run from Brighton here to London. So that's the challenge. You are measured on how much energy you actually consume. That isn't just about the car, it's about your driving as well, how frugal your driving is through that style of roads that you will encounter tomorrow on the run. We have a mix of country lanes, we have dual carriageways, and we have the heavy congested London going through Croydon, Clapham, Balham and into central London itself. So it's a really good 60-mile test to put these cars through and measure the least energy that the drivers consume.
It is the future, this kind of challenge, really, isn't it? You know, the petrol engine is not dying, but it's being fought quite hard now.
Interestingly, the more manufacturers are experimenting with electric and hybrid, the manufacturers of petrol engines are improving the petrol engines even quicker because they can see the challenge coming from the new energy development. So there's even more of a challenge now to speed up the process of more frugal fuel cars, ICE, internal combustion engine build, and we're seeing much quicker improvements from those particular manufacturers.
Is Britain leading the way in this particular technology?
No, I think it's worldwide really. I think we're seeing quite a lot here in Britain, but the technology is coming from America, Japan, Germany, plus the UK as well. We've got Land Rover here with very advanced hybrid technology, which doesn't go on sale until 2013, 2014. So there's a really good example. We've got Mini here with electric Mini developed in Oxford. So yes, we are leading and helping the way, but it is a worldwide concern and it is a worldwide development.
I know you're not a gambling man, but if you had to put a fiver on any of the cars here who would notch in that first position tomorrow, who do you reckon it might be?
It's good to see Gordon Murray's design of T27. That's lovely, compact, lightweight design here, electric. He had his petrol engine version, the T25 here last year, and he's come back for the second year with an electric car. So I'd put a little bit of money probably on that car, but I'm not a gambling man.
Thank you very much.
I'm Simon Gunn. I built this car and GU two ends, yeah.
That's the posh way to see Simon.
We're Scottish sheep stealers originally.
Oh, really? Not so posh then, but there we go. Okay, Simon, tell me, why are you doing this?
I built the car and I just wanted to prove it was a useful piece of kit. And I'm going to have a certain amount of range anxiety tomorrow because the range on this thing is not very good. It's pretty old technology in that it's got lead acid batteries. And I'll be lucky if I really get there, but I haven't told my son that, who's driving.
Is it different driving cars like this to petrol guzzlers?
Yeah, it is completely different. You are continuously trying to ease off the throttle, anticipate and drive better. The only problem is you also have the problem in this car, certainly, perhaps not in some of the others here, but you have the problem that you tend to have a bit of a tailback. So you have to be a polite driver as well and pull over occasionally. But I use this in the countryside in Kent where I live, and so that doesn't actually often happen. Usually I'm in the flow of things with everybody else.
Whereabouts in Kent, may I ask?
Not far from Canterbury.
You say it's old technology. What technology does it have?
Well,
do you know where we are at the moment?
Yeah, what I mean is the batteries are old technology.
Right.
It's actually got relatively modern technology in terms of the motor controller and the motor, which is AC driven. It comes from China, of course, like most things. It's very low powered, but then it doesn't need to be very hard powered because it's quite a light car, apart from the batteries. The batteries are about 400 kilos in this car, and the rest of the car weighs 400 kilos as well.
This is the problem, isn't it, with batteries?
It is, but of course all the other cars here have lithium batteries, which are about a third of a third of the weight in terms of equivalent power.
Does it fill that void? You love petrol cars, motoring. It's different, but do you miss the noise? Do you miss the smell? Do you miss that kind of stuff?
Yeah, but I can always climb out of this car and climb into something else. It is a completely different experience. You can go around with a bit of a halo on your head, knowing that you are really doing your own little bit to save the planet. But I have to say, electric cars are not always the answer. They have to be small to save the planet because some of the bigger electric cars they use they'll emit almost the same amount of carbon dioxide, but somewhere else, as a petrol car. So the smaller the car, the better. So I'm pleased to see Gordon Murray's attempt at an electric car, which really is the real way forward. We should all be getting into smaller cars, not necessarily electric cars, but smaller cars.
Is it about teaching people to get away from the combustion engine, really? Education, what is it?
Yeah, I'm a teacher as well in my spare time, so that's quite dear to my heart. It's younger people are much more interested in these sorts of things, and they're much more willing to embrace them because they know the problems caused to the planet by I won't say misuse of fossil fuels because they're there for us to use, but there is an issue, and this sort of event helps address it and helps explain to people that electric cars really are attractive, they really are economical, and they will solve a lot of the problems. We perhaps, I think, just need to change our attitude to what we need in a car.
Britain we're probably wait until that goes. I was going to say Britain's at the forefront, perhaps, of this technology. I'm not sure if that's quite true. But developing countries like China, India.
China's way ahead. The Chinese government have just announced an
question.
enormous amount of money to develop their electric car industry, and the electronics in this and the motor came from China, and in fact the batteries.
Well, are you surprised at China?
No, I think that China realised that if they want to mobilise their population, and they have signed up to the climate change agreements as well, that they will have to achieve it in a different way to using internal combustion engines. The internal combustion engine is over 150 years old. We actually need to move on.
I saw you reprogramming something on your computer. What were you doing, and how were you changing things?
Because the range is quite limited on this car, and I need to actually make as much use of the batteries as possible, I was just going to reprogram it so the controller doesn't cut out at 10.5 volts per battery, down to about 9 3/4. It'll hurt the batteries a bit more, but it's worth it to try and get there tomorrow.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Simon. Yeah. Busy boy. Have you been busy? Good. What were you doing at home?
Stop there.
You need light?
It's good. Get the number.
So, 34526.
Number 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, fine, good.
Trip meter.
Trip meter.
We don't have a trip meter.
We don't have
I'm
a trip
afraid,
meter.
no.
It's 34528. So this costs.
Well, it's pretty straightforward, really. There's an ambition, isn't there, to reduce the amount of fossil fuels that we burn and reduce the carbon footprint. So the question is, what's available right now, and what is going to come in the future, and what's going to be on the market? So the best way to do it is to road test the vehicles that we currently have. That helps promote the whole concept that cars over time will become. The emphasis will be much more on saving fuel and how fuel efficient they are, rather than necessarily on performance. So the performance is going to be how much, or how little fuel they use.
How important is it, do you think, to showcase these emerging technologies, and there are a number of them now.
Yeah, I think it's really important to let people know that that's a coming thing, you know, that it's going to be a direction. And they also can buy products now, so if you're coming up to replacing your car, then you can look around now, you can shop around for a car that's got the best technology on it, that's going to be most fuel efficient. And with fuel costs going up and up, you know, it's actually a saving. It's actually going to be necessary for people to buy cars which are not going to be wasting fuel.
Now, at the moment, these cars are beyond the reach of most people's budgets who are environmentally conscious. How long into the future will you think that these cars will be mainstream?
I think it might be approaching faster than we'd like it to be. I think that's part of the issue, is that actually all the signs are that global warming is actually ahead of the curve than we thought it was. And you know, we feel there's quite a bit of evidence pointing towards the fact that actually fossil fuels are contributing to that. So there's going to be a point at which the cost, the cars will come down the price of the cars will come down as more of them are produced and become competitively, and also legislation will be brought in so that there'll be less options for less fuel efficient cars anyway. So you know, it's not going to change. This is going to happen, and I think it's a responsible thing to do anyway.
Now, obviously, your heritage has come from a completely different motor sport. There are new sort of more environmental motorsports emerging now, things like green power. Do you think that's also going to be more established?
Well, there's a link between the high end of motorsport and what it's trying to communicate, but it is a sport, it's an entertainment. So part of the appeal of the sport is going to be that it's loud and noisy and perhaps also extravagant. So that's just part of entertainment. That's not going to change. But the quantity of impact on the environment for Formula One or any motorsport, I mean, is negligible compared to the amount of energy that we use in power stations generating electricity to boil a cup of tea. So you know, you have to look at the things that are going to make the biggest impact, and that's not to say that motorsport can be completely off the hook. You know, it can play its part in showcasing new technologies, as it already does.
Now, a lot of people are involved in motorsports at numerous levels. I mean, probably the most grassroots level is something like lawnmower racing. What do you think about that?
I think I've never tried it, but I think I've seen it on television. It's good fun, but yeah, people should have fun, you know, safely, and that's not a problem.
Something that you'd like to try in the future?
You're inviting me to do a lawnmower race, aren't you? No, thanks. No. Another time.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today. Thank you very
Thanks a
much
lot.
indeed.
Take care.
And whenever you're ready, Jamie. Whenever you're ready. What?
Give him the
Just use it, yeah.
Any comment to turn it on?
Last couple.
Good luck today.
Now, you're better known for talking about technologies to do with building homes.
Yes.
What are you doing here today?
Well, do you know, last night I was at a dinner, sat next to Gordon Murray, the car designer, and he was saying how passionate he is about building, about architecture. Anybody who's interested in architecture is interested in design generally, and of course automotive design. It's one of the kind of biggest components of our lives, isn't it? So it's impossible not to be interested. And there's also, of course, that very boyish love for speed and excitement. I've driven this car around the track at Silverstone, and it was magic. And in fact, these electric cars are so clever because not having a big lump of an engine or gearbox in one part of the car, it means that the weight can be really evenly distributed, and you can get perfect balance, and you can get a low centre of gravity by putting all the electrics down underneath them. So they behave themselves really well.
Now, how important is it, an event like this challenge, to showcase these new technologies?
I think it's huge, this kind of event. Very important, not just as a one-off, but as a year-on-year, because what you're seeing here is the evolution of a new species in transport. And it's a little bit for those people who are involved, like the company that make this, the Delta, who work out of an amazing workshop up in Northamptonshire. But they're the equivalent of Henry Rolls
setting up his little garage in 1902, whatever it is, you know, and all those small car makers. This is a century on. We're going through this new revolution in automotive design and engineering. And it's happening in Britain, because this is the centre of automotive design in the world. And it's very exciting to be part of, you know, to be witnessing and to be part of that, the genesis of that new movement. You know, you feel a lot of stuff will fall away and other ideas will emerge. I mean, for example, last year, petrol cars outnumbered the electric cars on this run. This year, the petrol cars are outnumbered by the electric cars 4-1, and that's in 1 year. So what's going to happen next year? You know.
Now, there's a big range of cars here today.
Yeah.
But most of them would be out of range of mainstream budgets for either family car. How long into the future do you think that will change?
Months. I mean, Peugeot are already announcing a range of cars, including one which is coming in at a very affordable price. I think it's under £20,000, and that's where you actually rent or hire the electric pack. So you don't need to worry about the batteries needing replacing. You can already buy a Nissan Leaf, which together I think with a government subsidy of £5,000 brings it to around £25,000 for that car. So they're not the cheapest on the market. But if you add together all the usual accessories that people like to load their cars with, you know, the extra wheels and the spinners and what have you, then you know, you can often find yourself spending that kind of money anyway. This is an emerging technology that is moving extremely quickly, and here you've got manufacturers like BMW, you know, prototyping electric vehicle with a range. Vauxhall have got their Ampera with a range of 360 miles. You know, this is tomorrow's technology right now. And you've got to remember also, I mean, what was it 10 years ago? A gig of memory cost something like £100, and now it costs £1. So the technologies, as they become mainstream, as we put them into production, become much more accessible and much cheaper.
Now, what's really eerie this morning is all these cars are arriving and they're creeping along like ghosts. It's completely silent. Do you find that strange?
No, I love that. I mean, inside these cars, they sort of beep and hum at you. You know, they kind of. I drove a Tesla last year through London traffic, and I sat and listened to all these chugging, blurbing, vibrating machines around me with these wobbling exhausts, and I thought that is last century's technology. It's so primitive, and to be in a vehicle which is effectively, you know, zero emissions and which costs pence to charge, and which has fantastic acceleration, is great fun to drive. You know, there's a bit of a no-brainer about that. The noise issue is quite fundamental, and people are very concerned about the noise of approaching cars. But actually, when you listen to any modern car approaching, you'll appreciate that most of the noise is stuff like air, wind, resistance, and rumble from the tyres. And these cars are just the same. At speed, you can hear them. It's only at very, very low creep speed that they sound eerie. And I think one or two manufacturers are overcoming that by putting a soundtrack on the car, you know, like, I don't know, twittering birds or, I don't know, whales making love or something.
And what do you hope to get out of today, personally?
Lunch. Well, it's very serious. It's very, very, very serious. You know, we have to get to London by lunchtime, and in one piece. And I hope not to be last in not the arrival stakes, in the consumption stakes. I hope to be. I'm going to drive. I've got my climbing shoes on, and I hope to be. I'm going to take my right one off. Actually, I'm going to drive in my sock, because this is all about using the minimum amount of energy to get us there for lunch.
Thank you.
Oh, let me tell you. Notice it's a decent shirt.
Think of the wind resistance that you're saving.
Oh dear. Aren't we just?
Thank you very much, sir. Enjoy.
2, 1, go!
Well done. Congratulations. Good luck. Right. The steering wheel's on the right side this time. Good. Good morning. The first of the Range Rovers. I'm very well. Come a little bit further forward. That's fine. Thank you. Tell us what you're driving. Well, this is a Range Rover. It's a Range E.
4, 3, 2, 1,
Go. Good luck.
See you later, Rob.
3, 2, 1, go!
Bye, Nick. See you in London.
Any? Go.
Thank you.
Just give it a little bit more. Give it a little bit more.
Thank you very much, Joel.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Good luck.
I have not really had time to look at the...
Looking forward to it?
Yes, very much so.
Don't forget not to put your pedal down too much.
4, 3, 2, 1, go! 3, 2, 1, go!
Good morning. Tell us what you're driving. I'm Mark Goodyear and this is a British gas list Nissan Leaf. What is it?
Yeah, probably the same one. With a year's more development. Here we go. Number 3. I'm 3. You got the tickets there, girl.
Hello, can I have you a couple of something?
I'm exhausted.
Okay.
Give me a blend. Just give me my smoothie.
Have the verdict. See what you think.
That's rewarding, is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've really earned that. Cheers. And it tastes good.
This is him, is it?
Say when.
Oh. Tell us to go anyway. Okay, off we go.
Hi,
What's your name, first of all?
Paul Drayson.
This is the very first stop. How's it been going so far?
Oh, it's been great. Really lovely drive in the misty countryside up from Brighton.
How important is this race to raise awareness, this event?
Well, I think it's vital because it's an opportunity for all the manufacturers developing these new cars to really showcase what the cars can do, give people an opportunity to try them out. And there's a real revolution taking place within the car industry at the moment towards particularly electric cars. And so this is an example of actually a record-breaking electric car. Did 26,000 kilometers down the length of America from Alaska to the bottom of Argentina. It just shows what an electric car can do.
Thank you very much.
I think
don't think that's particularly on.
Well, that tells me that this thing ain't going to make it.
Well, Sam's just driven. Sam drove down in their Leaf they had absolutely white knuckle. So I didn't think we were going to make it.
Okay, we're from Reuters.
Hello.
Hey,
Well,
Ben's going to ask you a few questions.
Well, if you want to know why I'm taking that picture, I'll catch up with you.
Yes.
If you want to know why I'm taking that picture, I thought the idea was that you do it on one charge or one tank or whatever, so they're refuelling. Aren't they cheating? This is a car that's got a range of 109 miles, apparently. I wouldn't be confident doing this run in this car because I think the real world range is nearer 60 miles and this journey is 60 miles, so they're topping up with electricity. I demand a steward's inquiry or whatever it's called. Anyway, on a more serious note, do you want me looking at you or him?
Yes.
Yeah, me please.
But you have got that on the record, haven't you? Good.
How important is a challenge like this to showcase new technology?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, I'm looking at loads of young kids around here, for example, and I don't think the result is terribly important because there are people using all sorts of tactics. So I think you need to take the result with a pinch of salt. But I think as an event, I mean, to give you an idea, I'm in what's called a petrol-electric car, so you've got the best of both worlds. You've got electric power when you need it in Brighton city centre or in London or whatever, and then when you get on the motorway, there's another one that needs recharging. When you're on the motorway, the petrol kicks in, and you've got none of this sort of range anxiety, as they call it. There's none of this problem with is my electric car, battery-only car, going to make it before it needs recharging? If you've got a combination of electricity and battery, that seems to me the best of both worlds. When the battery dies, you just run it on petrol or diesel as a conventional vehicle, and I think it's very important that we see all these modes of transport, all these technologies, and let people decide. Personally, and this is just my personal view, I much prefer to be in a car with two power packs. It's a bit like having a candle and a torch. When the candle runs out, the torch kicks in, or vice versa. If you're in an all-electric car, all you've got is the candle. When the candle dies, well, no. When you're in the all-electric car, it's like having a rechargeable torch. The torch dies, you've got to plug it in and recharge it.
Are you excited about the range of vehicles on display today?
I'm very excited, we're going through a period. I don't think we realise how lucky we are that we're experiencing all this. One of the big problems, though, unfortunately, is a lot of these things are unaffordable. Not all of them, but some of them. And there are one or two manufacturers coming in and making a statement and making them more affordable. But some of these are beyond the reach of regular people. I mean, I think the outgoing Transport Minister, Philip Hammond, said, if you don't like the price of petrol, go and buy an electric car. Well, hang on. You can pay £30,000, best part of, after the government subsidy for something like a Nissan Leaf, which is really the one that's, if you like, the main one at the moment, although there are Renaults coming in at much more attractive pricing, and that's what it needs. I think it needs the likes of Renault to come in and say, hey, you can buy these things for a more reasonable asking price.
I guess what we're really talking about is the economies of scale, and when you think that's realistically going to be enabling mainstream.
Well, there's good news and bad news here. The likes of Renault are forcing the issue, so I think it's sooner than we think. So maybe within 2 or 3 years we might be seeing family cars that run on diesel or electric that are pretty much the same price. That's the good news. The bad news is, what is the government going to do when it loses all that revenue from diesel and petrol duty. Is the government going to say, particularly at this time, in these tough economic times, which we're told, and then some are going to go on for years, is the government really just going to give up on all that duty? No. The government is then going to go to owners of electric vehicles and say, we're going to put a duty. This is my conspiracy theory. But it's inevitable, it's going to happen. They're going to claw back all that lost tax and duty on petrol and diesel by putting it on electricity. And I understand that the electric suppliers, the energy companies, already have the technology to know whether you've got say, an electric central heating system on the go or you've got your car plugged in. So they won't be taxing you when you're boiling a kettle or you've got electric fires on, but they will because they can identify that the car is plugged in, that this is a car and you've got to pay duty on it. And so I would say to people this: there's no point in getting rid of your petrol engine car because you're paying too much petrol tax. If you then get an electric car and you pay an electric tax, I think that's something that we really need to keep our eye on, and we need some commitment from government and the energy companies about what's happening on that score. And on that point, we know they do a great job in supplying regular electricity supplies to us, but you know, the behaviour of some of the electricity companies in the past hasn't been great, has it?
Now, coming back on track to today's event, what's in it for you?
What's in it for me? Well, I should be spending the day with my family, and I'm giving it up to drive around in circles because I've driven down from London. It's quite ironic. I've driven from London to drive back to London, so at least I'll be home when I get back there. But I mean, you know, I wouldn't miss this. This is one of the things. I'm missing the LA Motor Show later this month. I've chosen to miss that because I'm a busy man, but I wouldn't miss this for the world. And I'd like to think that I'll be on every one of these until the day when they say you're too old to drive. I mean, it's that important to me. And it's a great way. What I would say to people is don't jump in. Look at all this stuff, look at the paperwork, look at the real world experience, and read our reports. I mean, I'll be doing something in the Daily Telegraph and Auto Express on this very subject, and then weigh up the pros and cons. There's nothing in it for me. I'm not being paid to be here. I'm not sure that's the case with some of the people you might be speaking to today, but you know, it's not for me to say. But I'm here purely as an enthusiast, as a journalist, and as somebody who buys his own cars as well, as somebody who might well be putting his money into one of these things in the near future, but not for a while yet. It's a bit like the early days of, for your older listeners, VHS and Beta. You know, what do you buy? And that's maybe the way to look at these cars. But what I would say is have two power sources: battery stroke electricity and petrol, or battery and diesel, rather than a standalone battery unit, because when that goes, it goes and you're stranded on the side of the road.
That's right, I'll be with you in a sec. I'll get them as well.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations, Tom. Thank you very much. Mr. McLean. Wonderful. Thank you for participating.
Good to see you, Tom.
And you. Right. So, yeah, finish. Come back. Good. Even better.
You know why I've given him my sock?
Yeah, more sensitive, is it?
You want a shoe on, Kevin?
He got stuck as he walked out. I think he got stuck.
Yeah, that's it.
It's how with fuel economy, isn't it, Kevin?
As well.
Best way to drive.
I just have one as well.
Thank you very much.
Got my personal.
Can you put them on sale?
St James.
Oh, that's what, sorry? Oh, sorry, it's Charlotte. Yes.
Please don't ever ask me to drive to Croydon, Streatham and Brixton again in rush hour traffic. I mean, it just stop, start. And there was some bloke in a satellite making sure all the lights were on red. But what we proved today is this is a Fiat 500 Twin Air, which is very economical, but it's on these Goodyear efficient grip tyres, which give you up to a litre extra per tank. And I'm saying to people, okay, we're all push for cash. You might not be able to buy a more economical car, a hybrid or whatever, but 250 quid's worth of new tyres will save you juice. And that's the most important thing. I've got a petition going with the government to try and get fuel duty down. We really do need something about it. But in the meantime, whatever you can do to reduce your fuel consumption, drive better, an eco-driving style, and things like eco-fuels and eco-oils, it's got to be a good thing.
Do you think that perhaps on that sort of note, you should the government should introduce maybe free lessons in driving? You know, I passed my test 30 odd years ago, and you know I drive as with most people, but it would be nice to relearn, I suppose, as maybe an electric car.
Here's the irony. We have 32 million drivers in the UK, and probably 31,500,000 have no idea about driving economically because it's only recently been part of the test. So that's the government. Again, they need to do something and make it part of the driving test, and also give people the opportunity to learn how to drive economically. You can save up to 25% on your fuel bills if you just don't punch away at the pedals, you anticipate your lift off, you don't put your heated seats on and your aircon and keep your windows down. There's lots and lots of things you can do on a day-to-day basis to cut your fuel bills, and we need to know about that stuff.
Is this the future?
The future, hopefully, will not be oil dependent, and there's lots of great electric cars. I've got one. It'll be a while before they come down in price and they become mainstream. But in the meantime, the culture is most definitely maximising every last drop of petrol or diesel. You know, you really do have to squeeze it out and eke your way. We've lived through the golden age now, and you've got to be able to get sort of 30, 40, 50, 60 mpg in normal driving. It's easy, it's not rocket science, it's very easy to do once you get the mindset. And trip computer, put your trip computer on so you can see what MPG you're doing. There was a survey recently that said 82% of the population have never switched their fuel computer on in their car. That's nuts.
What do you think the futures of like F1 and those kind of sports, can they carry on the way they do, or do they need to change?
People criticise F1 because you've got these big V10, V12 engine cars roaring around the track, but there's a lot of work being done in F1 to save fuel, and they've got technology which is now filtering down onto production cars. So, you know, Bernie's doing his bit to make an example and to say, look, you can save fuel through technology. And look at the cars you can buy on the showroom carpet now. There are some cars out there that do 70, 80 miles per gallon. A Volkswagen Blue Motion, I've seen 79 mpg. That's great.
On that note, the other end of the scale, lawnmower racing. What are your thoughts on that?
Lawnmower racing, only in institutions for the criminally insane.
Thank you.
Kevin McLeod, tell us how the run went.
It's great, faultless to a T. It was a beautifully behaved car, impeccable on the road, and we even had time to stop for a bacon butty, which was essential. Essential. We were looked after very, very well, but in Crawley, by the technical college there, who fed us and watered us, and it's been a joy the whole morning. And in fact, we had a bit of sun, and we're driving through these gorgeous autumn mornings, these lovely little villages in the middle of Sussex, which were all sleepy and waking up. It was until we hit South London, it was a joy.
This was a lightweight car. It's not just about the electric motor in this, but you packed it with 3 grown men.
Yeah, look, carbon fibre seats. Yeah, it's actually very comfortable. It's got Alcantara and wool. It's not minimally furnished, but it is a lightweight vehicle with a special chassis, entirely carbon fibre chassis. And in order to compensate for that, there was 3 of us. I'm 6'2", Stephen, my navigator, is 6'7", and then we had the boss of the company as well in the back, Delta, slowly losing the sensation in his lower limbs. But it's a proper 2+2. This you can get a family in.
Talking of lower limbs, I understand you had a special driving style that didn't involve shoes.
Yeah. Well, they get, it's a very sensitive. These electric cars can be quite finely tuned, and they've recently been adjusting the regenerative braking component. So when you take your foot completely off the accelerator, the regen braking kicks in and slows the car down. And there is a sweet spot about that far in, and it's a range of about that much when you can actually freewheel. And I was constantly trying to find that on the slopes. We're going downhill. It's quite hard to find. You can't do it with shoes on. I should have brought my racing boots.
Just finally, you're a car enthusiast. Will you be going electric soon?
Yeah, no, actually I am, and I've been looking at the Leaf. There's a new Volvo electric hybrid coming out next year. I'm really excited by that. There's some really interesting cars right now. And the new Tesla Saloon coming up, which is going to be a really affordable luxury electric 5-person family saloon. I mean, some really interesting cars on the way. Yeah.
Look forward to you driving your own car next year. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's roll.
Talks away, Algie.
Okay, so as you go to the...
Number 59, yes. So, 555. Yeah.
That's lovely.
Well done.
So you get somebody. So when will they?
Oh, I think it's now fairly well accepted, particularly within the automotive industry, that electric motors are going to replace internal combustion ones, in the fullness of time. Might not be in the next 10 years, but I think certainly by the turn of the next century, if you want to see an internal combustion engine, you'll go to a museum and they'll be beautifully looked after and polished. But I think that era is past us. And it's really then how the power goes to the electric motor. That's where the debate is now, whether it's fuel cells, whether it's batteries, and whether all those sort of things. But I certainly think in the next few years, the introduction of range extended electric vehicles, so with petrol and like the Prius, like the Ampera, so many different companies are bringing those out. They will just become normal. And I think that was what will change people's attitudes, is that you've got a car that, if you want to, the classic one is you can drive to Scotland in it without worrying, but you can also save an enormous amount. I mean, the cost of petrol now is very hidden, because we don't know how much a gallon of petrol costs, and yet we know how far a gallon will take us. Well, a gallon of petrol is about £8. And I can drive 100 miles in an electric Nissan Leaf for £1. And you can't do that in a petrol car, no matter what car you've got. So it is those savings, once they start to filter through and people go, hang on a minute, I am paying so much money to drive 100 miles and sit in traffic with the engine still running, all the disadvantages of piston engines will start to come to the fore, I think.
Next question. I'm going to ask you if you could just be a little bit briefer.
Sorry.
In answers. That's okay. Maybe, what's going to be dominant in the future in terms of these electric vehicles?
I think it is safe to say now electric vehicles will dominate the car market. Whether they're powered by battery or hydrogen fuel cell, who knows? But they definitely won't be piston engines. I think the days of the piston engines are gone.
How important is an event like this to actually raise awareness of the fact that we've moved on now in terms of...
Yeah, I think an event like this is really the best way you can highlight it, because a lot of people actually suddenly see the cars, see them moving, realise they've actually driven, from a distant location into London. They haven't all broken down. There's not 20 people in between here and Brighton with a plug socket going, where can I plug in? They work basically. They do the job that we want them to do, and they do it very well. So I think it's a slow burn. It's gradually, people will see more and more of these sort of cars appearing. They become normal. That's all they've got to do is become normal, and then they'll arrive.
Now, price obviously with economies of scale will come down over time. How long a period do you think it will be before we see more electric cars than diesel or petrol on the road?
Oh, I think it's going to take 20 or 30 years before they say 50-50. I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to predict because the unpredictable could affect it. So a sudden and massive rise in the price of oil, which is very possible, but not necessarily because of war or because of shortage, but because of extra use. China and India. China is now the world's biggest importer of fossil fuel. It's overtaken America. I mean, that has changed the landscape enormously. So it really could make a difference a lot sooner. And I think, that's why I'm very glad I've got an electric car, because it really doesn't affect me to the same extent. Obviously, it's going to affect all of us up to a certain extent. But and so those changes will, could have a very disturbing effect on everything. So.
Are you excited by this new technology?
Yeah, I'm very excited about it because I like the engineering behind it and the science behind it and the development. There's such an enormous amount of development in, for instance, battery technology and battery management technology that is overtaking everything that's happened within internal combustion engines. We've refined internal combustion engines for 100 years, and they're brilliant now. They're amazing. They're really much more efficient, but they're hugely inefficient in comparison to electric motors. So, there's a very exciting steps being taken, which are emerging slowly in new technologies.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to ask you one question about lawnmower racing.
Why isn't there electric lawnmower racing?
Absolutely. So Pammy will ask you. It brings a smile to everyone's face that we've asked this one. So off you go, Pam.
Talking about motorsports, at the very grass level, you could say cutting edge indeed, is lawnmower racing. What do you think about that? Is that a good motorsport to get into?
I think lawnmower racing is I've only seen it once live, and I had no idea that they went as fast as they went. I thought it was kind of a joke, like snail racing. And then lawnmowers were going past me at what looked like 50, 60 miles an hour over bumpy grass. And I went, those people are certifiably insane and brilliant.
Thank you very much.